My name is Cicely, and I want to say good morning to all the people here at Unity, all the people on YouTube. If you're watching this today or any day, we're glad you're here. And I welcome you on behalf of the entire spiritual community here of Unity of Ocala. And I want to give a little Irish blessing to each of you before we start. May good luck be with you wherever you are. May your blessings outnumber the shamrocks that grow. May your days be many and your troubles be few. May of all God's blessings shine upon you. May all God's blessings descend on you. May peace be with you. May your heart be strong, and may you find what you're seeking wherever you roam. Okay, and please join me now in Unity's blessing. Well, I guess it's not up there, but we'll just have special music. Mike, is there going to be the prayer up there? Well, okay, we'll listen to our guest speaker, Will Tuttle, play the garden.
Great, good morning, thank you. So yeah, I'd like to play a piece of special music now called The Garden. It's an original piece of music. Many years ago, I was in Ukraine, and it was back when it was the Soviet Union, actually, and I was giving a series of concerts and lectures there, and I was playing a beautiful piano, and this melody emerged, and I wrote it down. I'd like to share it with you now, and really just dedicate it to the healing of our world, to world peace, to wherever there's conflict in the world, or suffering of humans or animals or any living beings, that we send our love and compassion. So I'd like to just dedicate this to the healing of all of our relations. This is called The Garden. Enjoy.
That was beautiful. Thank you very much, Will. I'd like all of you to know I've met Will before, either at my congregation in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I came from, or else it was Columbus, Ohio before that. But I've had the pleasure of meeting him before. Okay, together now, let's recite Unity's foundational principle. There is only one power, one presence, active in the universe and in my life, God, the good, the omnipotent. And when we live this principle, we are a thriving spiritual community, here to inspire one another to realize God's love. Centered in the Spirit of God, we see peace, love, and abundance in an awakening world. And now the daily word for Sunday, March 12th is illuminate. And the affirmation is, I welcome the light. Taking a moment to appreciate the beauty of a sunset, I realize that in any other part of the world, the first rays of the rising sun are bringing light to the morning sky. Whether I see it or not, the sun never stops shining. Somewhere, a new day is dawning. Much more brilliantly than the sun, the light of God is also always shining. Sometimes my thoughts are so focused on a challenging life situation that I do not sense the divine light. Then, in a flash of insight, I experience again the illuminating presence that, even in my darkest moments, it is as near as the next thought. I affirm, let there be light. I breathe out frustration. I breathe out worry. And breathing in, I am filled with the light of truth that illuminates my mind and shines from my heart. And scripture is from Genesis 1, verse 3. Then God said, let there be light, and there was. So let's just all together just say, let there be light. Let there be light. And whenever you feel the need, you're in a little bit of a dark space or anxious about something, just say to yourself, let there be light. Okay, I'd like to tell you just a little bit more about our speaker, Dr. Will Tuttle. He's very accomplished, as you could tell by his piano playing. He's a composer, a pianist, an educator, and author of a best-selling book called The World Peace Diet. It has been published in 16 languages, so it's really been read all over the world. Dr. Will is devoted to providing uplifting and healing original music and helping people awaken their inner wisdom and their genius. He has a PhD in education from the University of California at Berkeley. He's focusing on education intuition, which I didn't even know was a major. He's taught college courses in philosophy, humanities, mythology, creativity, and comparative religion. Will is a former Zen monk and a Dharma master in the Korean Zen tradition. Currently, he conducts music, art, and education ministry along with his wife, Madeline. Do you want to just stand so people see who you are, too? And Madeline is a visionary artist from Switzerland, and she specializes in painting that celebrates the beauty of animals and nature. She's also a flautist and a Waldorf teacher. So together they are traveling and providing lectures, concerts, and workshops throughout North America and actually worldwide. They have inspiring art prints, cards, books, and CDs of original piano music. I have one of those. There are available individual sessions for personalized music and art portraits. Okay, I'm going to turn this over now to Dr. Will, who will be our speaker today. Welcome.
Okay, so we'll be doing our meditation next, and then I'll play some music and we'll go into the talk. So please get comfortable for the meditation time. Let's become aware of our breathing. With every exhalation, letting go of any thoughts of the past or any thoughts of the future, and allowing ourselves to enter more deeply into this present moment. The only holy moment is right now. With every exhalation, we let go into this moment. We give thanks for this precious opportunity to be together in this beautiful sanctuary. We know that this outer sanctuary is a manifestation of the inner sanctuary that is ever present, where we dwell always in unity with the infinite love that is the source of our life, the source of all life. So we give thanks for this outer sanctuary, for this community, for all of our loved ones, for all of the teachers in our life. We give thanks for all of the teachings of all the world's wisdom traditions that help to awaken our minds and hearts away from the delusion of separateness to the truth of the infinite interconnectedness of all life. And we give thanks for this beautiful earth, for all of the manifestations of life here, for all of the animals celebrating their lives in the waters of the earth, in the skies, on the land. Bringing their presence and their beauty. We give thanks for the whole human family, and the journey of awakening that we are on together, to awaken to the truth and to our purpose on this earth. And we give thanks knowing that the light that shines in the very heart of the universe is shining in our heart right now, pulsing life and health, joy and freedom, vitality and wisdom into every cell in our being. So that every dimension of our life comes more and more into alignment with the true nature of our being, knowing that what we are was never born and will never die. So we give thanks for this precious opportunity of a human life and for the purpose that we have for this lifetime, for the unique mission that we are here to fulfill. And so we just allow the music now to open an inner doorway of understanding, to connect more deeply with the truth that we are. Abiding in our true home, abiding in loving kindness, in compassion, in joy, in peace. Abiding in freedom, in truth, abiding in abundance, abiding in harmony. May all beings be free. May all beings be happy and at peace. May we all realize the original brightness of our mind and heart. May we continue together to build a more enlightened society, a world that cares for everyone, for all living beings, a world that reflects the truth of the inner Christ shining always in our heart as loving kindness, as wisdom, and we give thanks knowing this is so, and so it is. Thank you all for joining together in the meditation. And I'd like to play a short piece of music now called Benediction of Light. And just invite you as you're listening to let the music take you on an inner journey. And then we'll go into our the message time. So again, enjoy. This is dedicated to creating a field of healing that we can send out into our community and into our world. Enjoy. Thank you. All right, I have my leash here. I'm gonna. So thank you all so much for joining us and for getting here an hour early, and you figured it out. There may be some people coming in right as we end at 11 o'clock, and they'll be just in time for the workshop, so they'll get their reward anyway. But it's great to be back again, and I know we send our love to Reverend Lori. She's taking a little time off, I think, with her daughter, she said. So we send her our love and appreciation. And it's great to be back. I just checked on my computer before the service. The last time that Madeline and I were here at Unity in Ocala was 2012. So it's been quite a while. We were here before that a number of times back in the early 2000s. But it's been over 10 years. And I'm not sure if this is a gorgeous piano. Let's have a big hand for the piano. What a great piano. It's really, I'm telling you, it's one of the really best pianos I've seen in a Unity church. I mean, it's really good. It's a Yamaha. It's a really good piano. And so, yeah, I'm just like having a really great time here. Usually I have to play whatever they give me, but this is really a treat. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about intuition this morning. We're going to be doing a workshop this afternoon on intuition. The thing I think that I really like about Unity, and Madeline and I have been going to Unity churches now for over 30 years, full-time and speaking and playing music and doing workshops and things. I think Unity is such a healthy movement, really, in the sense that it's really founded on a solid foundation of inclusion, this idea that we include, not only is everyone welcome here, but there's this idea of including all the world's wisdom traditions within what we're teaching. Like, we don't say, well, we don't believe that, but we have this sense of honoring the world's wisdom traditions, and I think that's a tremendous asset because as a human species, we have a tremendous heritage of wisdom coming from many different times and places. And Charles and Myrtle Fillmore really were students of the world religions, and they, of course, they especially dove deeply into the wonderful teachings of Christianity and of Jesus. But I think there's this honoring of the contemplative and the revelatory traditions of many different times and places. And that really has to do with each one of us connecting with our own inner guidance system. That idea that we don't need to go through an intermediary. We don't have to have this set of rules that we follow in a sort of rote kind of a way. I remember when I was a kid growing up in Concord, Massachusetts, we went to an Episcopalian church, but I mean, there was this creed, and the whole idea was if you really believe what we tell you, then you'll get to go to the heaven that's just for us, this kind of exclusivist idea. And so for me, it was really very refreshing to discover Unity way back in the 70s, I think I discovered Unity, and in Atlanta, Georgia, when I was there. And Charles Fillmore's famous saying, really, that we should each go straight to headquarters, that we each have the capacity to go straight to headquarters. For him, it was easy. It meant, I'll just ask Myrtle, see what she thinks. But for everybody else, I mean, it's more difficult. How many of you have actually been to Unity Village back in Kansas, outside Kansas City? Some, oh, good. Yeah, if you haven't been there, it's kind of like Mecca. Once in your lifetime, try to go to Unity Village. It's a beautiful place. It's a wildlife sanctuary. There's like over 1,000 acres of beautiful land with lakes and forests. The prayer tower where people are praying 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call in anytime if you have a concern, and they'll be with you. And praying not just sort of in a dualistic way, but really understanding the oneness that is the foundation of our life. And I think that's very positive. It's very important to be aware of that. And also that right now, all over the United States and really worldwide, there are people gathering in Unity centers and on the same wavelength. And we've been to them. We've been to Unity churches and centers in every single state, except for North Dakota. They don't have one. But when they get one, we'll go there. And in many countries around the world as well, Australia and Europe and all over the place. And so it's this teaching, really, I think, of intuition is one of the core teachings. And that's one of the reasons I love Unity, because my PhD at Berkeley focused on educating intuition in adults. And I think in many ways a spiritual path doesn't begin really until we begin to connect with this intuition. So what is it? The word intuition comes from the ancient Latin roots in and tuere. In means in or within, and tuere means to learn or to look. So it's learning from within or learning by looking within. And it's this basic idea that we have within us already wisdom, because what we are is not just an object that was born and will die. What we are actually, and this is the fundamental teaching really of the world's wisdom traditions, is not an object. We are the infinite and eternal consciousness that makes this appearance possible. In the Buddhist tradition, it's very interesting. In the early first few hundred years, they never had the idea of having a statue like of the Buddha, like this body. They knew it was much more than just the body. That was only later when it came to Greece, and they made statues out of everything. But before that, it was the main symbol was a footprint. And they would have a footprint. And so you think, well, why would it be a footprint? And it's very interesting because if we go to the beach and we're walking along the sand and we see a footprint, we know not to go up to the footprint and go, well, good morning, George, how are you doing? We know that's just a footprint. That's not the being that made the footprint. Well, that's the idea. Like right now, waving at you is a footprint. Right? You cannot see the being. We don't see the being. The being is non-visible. It's transpersonal in a sense. But we get fixated really on having a good footprint, trying to make our footprint look good, and forget that we're far, far, far greater than just that, this the temporary appearance in the world. When we begin to do the inner work of meditation and quieting our mind and learning to have a guidance system beyond just our thinking, then we begin to actually embark on the spiritual path. And I think if we're not being guided by our intuition, this is a very important question to think about. If we're not being guided by our intuition in our life, what are we being guided by? Right? What am I actually being, if I'm not, what am I being guided by? And when we look carefully, I think we'll realize that we're being guided by the cultural program. Right? As soon as we're born, we're like a little tiny sponge. We just soak up everything magnificently. Their language becomes my language. Their food becomes my food. Their attitudes become my attitudes. And so we just become, and we're bombarded with messages from our parents and teachers and so forth, and the Walmart ads and all this stuff. And it's not, a lot of it is not healthy, and so all of this stuff we're getting from our ministers, not Reverend Laurie, but the other ministers, the whole idea is that we internalize all these things as little kids growing up, and pretty soon we become basically just an outpicturing of all this conditioning. So the whole idea is to actually understand that if that's all that we're doing, basically, it's very difficult for us to have a spiritual life, because spirituality really requires us as an authentic being to begin living our unique life and fulfilling the mission that we have for this life. And that means not looking at other people for guidance, really. It's really looking to our own inner wisdom for guidance. And it doesn't mean that our life will therefore be totally easy and comfortable, but it does mean it'll be our life. It'll be maybe very challenging, but there'll be a sense of authenticity. And I think that's the main gift, really, that intuition gives us, is living an authentic life, living the life that actually I'm here to unfold without worrying too much if others approve of it, or if I'm doing what the authorities tell me I should be doing, and so forth. It's really aligning with the calling that is for this lifetime. And when we do that, I think we naturally begin to bless others, because by doing that we create around us a field of freedom, because we're living, in a sense, a life of freedom and sovereignty. And when we do that, we give others permission without even trying to help them. We just start helping them because we're doing it ourselves. We become an example. But to do that, we really need to do the inner work. And I think that's very important. How many of you have some kind of a regular practice of some meditation or prayer or something? Good. I think it's really good to, in the morning, get up and really be aware of your thoughts, cultivate a sense of gratitude, and practice bringing the mind into the present moment and being just present, because we're taught to be a human doing more than a human being in our society. We're always out there trying to do something. But if we have a foundation of inner listening, inner silence, where we connect with the presence of the being that we truly are, which is more than just the conditioned thing that we think we are, the very force that makes this possible, then we begin to be a living example of that, and we begin to get guidance from that. And I think when we're doing that, then we begin to see the best in others. We begin to see that in others. And when we see that in others, we actually become a healer in the sense that we're not just seeing their limitations, we see it in others. But to see it in others, we really need to see it in ourselves. And I think that's the beautiful thing. So I want to just thank you all, because I know if you found your way through the door to this particular space that we're sharing, you're already on this path of questioning the official narratives in our society that lead to, really in many ways, the dumbing down of our spiritual capacity, and to reawakening that. That's really what Charles and Myrtle Fillmore envisioned, was not so much a church as in the sense of an educational collaboration where we inspire each other with our presence and with our efforts. And I think it's very inspiring to be part of this, and to remember that these teachings are ancient, and it's really important for all of us to find our unique way of contributing to it. I'll just close with a short story about myself. When I was younger, I was born and raised in Concord, Massachusetts, which was kind of a neat place to be born and raised, just because there was this history, right? There was the history of the American Revolution back in 1775. You remember the old poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson, "Hardly a man is now alive that remembers the famous day and year of the midnight ride of Paul Revere," and he, one if by land and two if by sea, this whole thing. The redcoats are coming. This whole idea, if you have a government that's a tyranny, you should have a revolution. We should really not allow ourselves to be dominated and exploited. And I think, April 19th actually was the day of that battle, so it's called Patriots' Day. And every April 19th, thousands of people would go down to the Old North Bridge in Concord. My father would be one of them. He was part of the local Minutemen, so he'd get on his Minuteman outfit and get the old ramrod gun off the wall, go down. We would all reenact the battle instead of the British running back to Boston in their redcoats and celebrate the Revolution. But the neat thing is that also in Concord, about 100 years later, there was another revolution, which was called the Transcendentalist Revolution, really. It's not so much a revolution as a movement, but it was really a philosophical movement. So I learned to swim in Walden Pond and was born in Emerson Hospital, went to Alcott School and all of this, and Thoreau School. And these people really were the first ones in the United States to bring the teachings of Asia here, like these ancient teachings from China and India and really around the world. So Thoreau, for example, had the largest library of books on Taoism and Buddhism, the Bhagavad Gita and the Tao Te Ching and Upanishads and all these teachings, and they were sort of integrating this ancient wisdom with the wisdom of the West and creating what is called transcendentalism. And of course, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were very much affected by this. And so these ideas were kind of radical at the time, of God as an infinite principle, or God as infinite mind from the Buddhist tradition, or God as equally female as male from the Hindu tradition. These ideas, I think, sort of were like a breath of fresh air to help kind of open things up to a greater understanding of our spiritual nature. And so for myself, I went away to college in Maine, and I remember reading some of these books and getting very interested in this back in the early 1970s. And I remember reading Thoreau and Emerson and Walt Whitman and some of these others. And then I read a book by Richard Buck called Cosmic Consciousness. Did any of you know that book, Cosmic Consciousness? He was a Canadian back in the 1890s. But basically he said that everyone that you meet, pretty much all of us, we are at the stage of what he referred to as self-consciousness. We basically care about ourselves. And we care about maybe a few people around us. That's the state that most people are in. And it's okay, but there's a lot of suffering and illusion in all of that. But he said there's certain people, historically, who had attained what he called cosmic consciousness, which is a qualitative leap beyond that. And these are people like Jesus and the Buddha and some of the great sages and saints. He had a whole biographies of all these different people, both men and women, through the founders of religions and so forth. And he said that these people attained a state of consciousness where they no longer feared death. They no longer were really so concerned about just themselves. They had this overview where they had kindness and love and cared for everyone, for all beings. And they were free in many ways of the kinds of illusions that we have. And he said it is the destiny of all human beings to attain cosmic consciousness. That's really our purpose on this earth. And so I remember going back home sometimes during the breaks to talk to my parents about this. And I said, Mom, Dad, you know about cosmic consciousness, right? and told them all about it. And I remember my father, he was saying, well, we're paying a lot of money for this education, and I'm not sure how that's going to help you get ahead in the world, And but to my delight, my younger brother Ed, when I talked to him about it, he said, "Yeah, that's it. And we should do that. We should attain cosmic consciousness." My father had a whole chain of newspapers. I was destined to take over the whole thing. I mean, it was really this agenda that was played out. But I really felt called to this. And I remember talking to my father, and bless his heart, my father listened and he said, "Every man must march to the beat of the drum that he hears." And he quoted Thoreau. And so he gave us his blessing, my mother did. And so we walked down the driveway of our little house with some with little backpacks with fresh baked cookies, because we thought if we're going to attain cosmic consciousness, there's only one way to do it. We really tried to figure out, what do we do? How do we attain cosmic consciousness? And we thought about it, and we suddenly knew what to do. It's obvious. If you want to attain cosmic consciousness, you go to California. So so we headed off with these fresh baked cookies and a backpack and walking along and heading west. And after quite a few weeks, we had gotten as far as Buffalo. And in Buffalo, it was freezing. It was October, and I thought, well, I've got a bachelor's degree from a pretty good school. I can figure this out. We better just walk south. And so we headed south, and we walked about 15 or 20 miles a day down through these little tiny backcountry roads, down through upstate New York into Pennsylvania, across Pennsylvania into West Virginia, across West Virginia into eastern Kentucky, across eastern Kentucky into Tennessee. We were in the Bible Belt, and I didn't know what that meant, but I found out very quickly. That meant they try to save you every night. So we had no money. We did this whole thing without money. So it was really interesting. We had so many adventures of because we stayed pretty much. We would spend the night usually on the floor of a church, and then we'd get up in the morning. But they would, of course, we'd have all kinds of conversations about everything, and because we were really focusing on teachings by Ramana Maharshi from India, who said, just find out who you are. Ask, who am I? And go deeper and deeper with that question. So that's what we were doing. Thousands of times a day, I would say, who am I? Who am I? And try to go beyond just being the body and the collection of thoughts and memories and all this stuff to get to the truth of what is it. And I remember one point we were in eastern Kentucky. The people had hardly any money. So they were so poor, but they were still generous. They would still help us, and they thought we were angels. They were really beautiful. And they said, speak to our Sunday school students. And I remember we went in and we told the kids, it's what Jesus said is true. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else shall be added unto you. Go for the most important thing, your spiritual life. Because that's what we were doing, and it was working. We found that if we just focused on the spiritual quest that we had, that somehow food would appear miraculously. I remember one time we were really hungry, the only time we were really hungry, and we were walking along, and there were, by the side of the road, there were these sandwiches wrapped up. And we picked them up and said, we weren't even surprised. Oh, here it is, okay. We really found amazing. And they gave us some money that morning, and like $30, which back in 1975, that was something. And I remember we went to, as we walked along, we stopped at a restaurant to eat lunch afterwards, and they had, we had, back then for two people, it was maybe $12 or something for two people for lunch. So we gave the waitress an $18 tip and just kept going. The whole idea is don't hang on, just trust every day, let every day take care of itself. And we eventually ended up at a community called The Farm in Tennessee, and that was the largest hippie commune in the world back then. It was about 900 people, and they were all from California. So we kind of felt like we met them in the middle. They were all vegetarians, so actually that was it. I've never eaten meat in my life since the example of those people, and eventually went vegan, and so did my wife Madeline. And then we kept going, and we ended up at a Zen center in Alabama, if you believe. You probably think I'm lying, but there was actually a Zen center over in Huntsville. And eventually ended up over in California at these different meditation centers, and eventually, as you heard, shaved my head, became a Zen Buddhist monk in Korea. And but when I came back, I eventually felt like I should be more in the world and not just live my life in a monastery. And I discovered unity really as a way of bringing these universal wisdom teachings in an authentic way to our society. It's really based on pure gold. It's based on the teachings that we discover within ourselves. And so I just want to close now with this basic idea, because I remember when I was on that walk with my brother and we were going down through some place and we had no reason to be happy, right? I mean, we had no money, we had no security, we had no safety, we didn't know where the next meal was going to come from. I remember walking along and having these waves of joy just washing over me. So I was so happy, and I had no reason to be happy. And I think that's our true nature, all of us. Our basic true nature, if we quiet our mind enough and go down, we'll find a bubbling spring of joy that needs no reason in the outer world. The outer world can't give us anything of that joy. That joy is us. That's our true nature. And when we learn to just become present and really appreciate and savor this beautiful earth and each other and our life here, then we feel a connection with the infinite spirit, and we don't need something outside us to make us happy. We are happy. We are filled with joy, and we can bring that to others in our relationships. And I think that's it. But in order to do that, we have to connect with our intuition, so we're really living our life. Because if we're not living our life, then somehow we're frustrated. And because our life is temporary. We're only here for a few short decades. That's one thing we can all count on. We are going to leave. In Zen, there's an old saying, life is like a journey when you get onto a boat and you take off and you know for sure that the boat is going to sink. But that's not a bad thing. That's what gives our life beauty, right? There's no beauty in plastic flowers are okay, but the real beauty is in real flowers because they're transient. Transiency brings beauty. And our life is beautiful because it's precious. We're only here. Every day is precious. We don't know when's the last day. So we can live every day as an opportunity to awaken. So I want to just thank all of you for making these efforts to make this possible, because it's very precious. And what's really precious also is that we in our generation keep the teachings alive for the next generation. Because there's a lot of forces that want to destroy the teachings, and we have to keep them alive. There's deception everywhere now, more than ever. And to connect with the truth, we are called to do that ourselves. So I want to thank you. I'll just close with this final idea that in the Buddhist tradition, just as an example, there's what's called the three jewels. And the three jewels are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha is basically our true nature, what we would call in unity the inner Christ. This is the light of joy and freedom and truth that is always shining in our being. That's Buddha. Dharma is the teaching, right? The teachings that help us to awaken to that and how to live our life in alignment with that. And then Sangha is the community of people who are interested in the teachings and in awakening to the Christ nature. So this right here, this is a Sangha. This is one of the jewels, one of the three jewels. And the Buddha said, without the Sangha, there will never be any Buddha or any Dharma. So this is a precious jewel that when you may not think it's a big deal, but to create a community and keep that community going takes a lot of work, and a lot of not only outer work and cooperation, but inner work to keep ourselves inspired and connected to the truth. So it's so wonderful that you have been able to keep this community alive and thriving, and by the inner work and by the outer work that you're doing. And so I really want to honor and thank all of you, because it's a fantastic thing. That's what keeps this thing going for the next generation, which is so important. We're blessed by our ancestors who went before us to bring us wisdom, and we can be ancestors for those that come after us. That's very important. So never doubt that any effort you make is ever lost. It all helps. It all helps. So I'd like to close with a short piece of music, and it's called Dance for the Arctic Moon. It's dedicated especially to the sacred feminine dimension of consciousness. All of us have a sacred feminine within us that is receptive. We'll talk about that during the workshop, but that's how we open to the inner wisdom, is through the sense of receptivity. It's called Dance for the Arctic Moon. Enjoy. Thank you. Thank you. Great, thank you.
Music. Um, I'd like to invite the ushers up now to come forward. And as they do that, let's all say together our blessings for tithes and offerings. Divine love flowing in and through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am grateful. Holy Hasharandas, I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. The presence of the Lord is in this place. Conceal the mighty power and God's grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Okay, can one of the chaplains tell me who's the main chaplain today? Joanne Long. Okay, if anybody would like to have one-on-one prayer after the service, Joanne, who's standing right there in the back with the blue stole, she is our prayer chaplain today, and she will pray with you up here somewhere. And if Joanne is busy, you can go to anybody wearing a blue stole. They're all chaplains. All right, we have our children back in, so we would like to bless the children. Children, come right on up. You look beautiful. Okay, let's bless the children. We love you, we bless you, and we be the love guided and protected. And we empower you to do great things. Thank you. Do we have any first-time visitors today? Oh, good. Thank you. We would like you to stand if you don't mind, and we will give you a blessing too. We love you, we bless you, and we behold the Christ in you. We love you, we bless you, we behold the Christ in you. We love you, we bless you, we behold the Christ in you. Thank you for being here. And after the service, we have a little coffee, carbs, and conversation right out in the hallway. You can have some coffee, tea, and whatever refreshments are there. Yes, go. Oh, thank you for being here. And there is a workshop this afternoon that Dr. Tuttle is going to present. I invite him to say a few words about that.
Hi. Just very briefly, Madeline and I will be presenting a workshop this afternoon called Opening the Intuitive Gate, the Keys to Developing Your Intuition. We'll start right at 11:30 and we'll be done by 1 o'clock, so about an hour and a half. And remember what Albert Schweitzer said. He said, the key to happiness is good health and a short memory. So I think it's very important to remember that. And we'll be teaching some techniques basically to help us come into this moment, and also using music and art and imagery for each one of us who is attending the workshop to connect with your own unique way of accessing your intuition. So please join us at 11:30. It'll be a great time, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much. Thanks.
There is no set amount for this workshop, but a free will offering will be taken, and appreciated. Okay, the other announcements are the Wednesday classes will continue this week from 12:30 to 2:30. And unity discussions will resume next Sunday after service. And do we have any other announcements that I know? What meeting? Oh, there's a board meeting. At what time? After the service. Woo, a lot going on. Okay, get your snacks and come quickly back for the board meeting. Did you have something to say? No. Oh, okay. All right, then let's stand and say our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And wherever God is, well, is well. Okay, thank you. Oh, oh, we usually do have an exit sign. Yes. And let us